Dear ladies and gentlemen, distinguished shareholders, welcome to Bekaert's annual general meeting of shareholders. No doubt, 2020 will be long remembered. The COVID pandemic brought challenges and changes to the world of a magnitude that was impossible to foresee. One of them we experience today, where COVID restrictions prevent us all from personally attending the meeting in Kortrijk. Together, Oswald Schmidt and I are participating virtually from Frankfurt, while the official part of the meeting will be chaired live in Kortrijk by our senior board member, Charles de Bekaert. And thank you, Charles, for taking on this important task. In addition to my welcome and introductory remarks, the agenda today will consist of the presentation of the 2020 results and the trading update of the first quarter 2021 by our CEO, Oswald Schmidt. I would then return to give an explanation of the proposal to introduce the double voting rights and changes to the composition of the board in 2022, which we announced earlier today. And then finally, we'll turn to the official part of the annual general meeting with the voting on the agenda items. In this very eventful year, our special thanks go to our employees who have consistently shown enormous flexibility and commitment in responding to unforeseen challenges. The engagement and the participation of our employees allowed us to ensure that the health and safety in the working environment was always given. Our employees engaged to support our local communities in fighting the pandemic. And as a team, we were able to maintain a very high service level to our customers and respond to the market opportunities that came. We did this all while deploying mitigating actions across the company to protect the financials. As a result of all the efforts undertaking in 2020, we were able to improve our profitability, significantly reinforce our balance sheet, and enhance the strategic position of our business. Moving forward, our ambitions reach higher. The board of directors, together with the Bekaert's leadership team, have established a strategy with a clear ambition to move the company's business toward a higher value creation. Organic growth in our core markets will be supported by extending our capabilities in the areas of innovation, sustainability, and digitalization of our business. As part of this strategy, the board yesterday approved Bekaert's ambitious sustainability strategy for the coming years. More information about our new strategy, the sustainability initiatives, and the company's midterm guidance will be disclosed at the Capital Market Day on May 28. Through our strategic initiatives to perform, transform, and grow, we have strengthened our business and are in an excellent position to fully benefit from the positive growth in our markets. The many initiatives underway have contributed to a very dynamic start of 2021, with substantial volume growth and new sales records. And based on the strong financial performance in the past year and the confidence in the set direction, the board recommends an increase in the gross dividend today by 65 cents to €1 per share. So dear shareholders, we particularly appreciate your continued trust in these extraordinary times, and I truly hope to be able to welcome you in person at the shareholders meeting next year. So on behalf of Bekaert's leadership team and our global organization, I would like to thank you for your support and trust in the past year, as well as confidence in our future. And herewith, I hand it over to our CEO, Oswald, who will guide us through the full year result of 2020 and the first quarter trading update of 2021. Oswald?
Thank you, Jürgen, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, also a warm welcome from my side. And I would like to start with the full year 2020 results. When we look back at 2020, we can conclude that this was a very unusual, but at the same time, a very successful year. While affected by the pandemic, in the first half of the year, sales reached 2.772 billion euros. The underlying EBIT improved by plus 13% and reached 272 million euros. We strengthened the balance sheet and raised our liquidity. Net debt on underlying EBITDA was below 1.3 at the close of the year. Our 455,000 employees were focused on serving the customers in more than 120 countries worldwide from our global footprint of more than 75 manufacturing sites we have worldwide. This resulted from a truly joint effort. All stakeholders have supported us last year in delivering on our priorities: to safeguard the safety and health of our employees, to protect our business and our company, and finally to emerge stronger from the crisis and the targeting for exploiting full potential. I would like to take the opportunity to thank our employees for their very strong execution and focus on priorities in a difficult context, and for their resilience and true leadership. I also want to thank our customers and other business partners, especially our suppliers, for their trust in our capabilities, the support in working truly better together, and for being considered as the preferred partner. Last but not least, I want to thank you, our shareholders, for your considerate support last year when you approved the dividend cut and postponed payment, for your belief in our current and future capabilities, and for your engagement, for your investment in making Bekaert growth strategy possible. So cordial thank you. Now let's have a look at our two main achievements of 2020. The first of all, we were able efficiently to counter the impact of COVID-19 through mitigating measures and structural performance improvements. These were aiming at securing the health and safety of our employees and their families, being close to the customers and ensure supply reliability across the globe, a strong focus on stringent control on working capital, capex and costs, significantly deleveraging, and a strong liquidity, successfully continuing the profit restoration programs, and last but not least, a strong focus on the timely and professional execution of the projects. Secondly, we have effectively been able to capture the opportunities. This resulting from the fast and significant rebound in various markets in the second half of the year. We were able to strengthen our market positions in many areas and gained market shares. We could deliver excellent supply chain management. We have secured the global access to critical raw materials when raw materials were scarce. We deployed new commercial tools and channels to step up our commercial excellence and to be closer even to our customers in these difficult times. Further, we applied active portfolio management to improve the margins. This led to a firm profit growth and a stronger balance sheet in 2020. The underlying EBIT increased by plus 13% on a consolidated sales decrease of minus 13%. The cash generation was solid, with an operating free cash flow of 449 million euros, up 82% from last year. Working capital reduced by minus 23%, which resulted in a 40.2% working capital percentage on sales at the close of the year. Net debt on underlying EBITDA was 1.26, again significantly down from last year as 209. The net debt was 604 million euros, minus 38% down from last year. Finally, this strong performance for the fiscal year 2020 has resulted in the proposal, as already mentioned by the chairman, for a dividend of €1 per share. Looking further into sales, consolidated revenue dropped by 550 million euro to 3.77 billion euro. This was due, and we all know, the heavy impact of the COVID pandemic in our markets during the first half of 2020. This particularly affected the sales level of rubber reinforcement business, where the full year declines minus 70% or 340 million euros and was entirely related to the drop in the first half. The business made a very strong rebound to normal levels in the second half of the year. Steel Wire Solutions reported an organic decline by minus 3%, Specialty Business by minus 5%, and Bekaert Rope Group by minus 10%. Now looking at the combined sales, also the Brazilian joint ventures recorded lower sales, so that the total impact on the COVID-19 combined level was about minus 700 million euro. Looking now at some of the key financial highlights. 2020 was clearly a year of two very different halves. On the one side, the sales side, the revenues were up 13% in the second half versus the first half. Underlying EBITDA was almost 50% higher in the second half. And underlying EBIT approximately doubled to 181 million euro at a margin of 9%. The total underlying EBIT margin for the year hence reached 7.2%, well above last year of 5.6%. The other key highlights of the year include, as already mentioned, the strong reduction in working capital, the very significant deleveraging, and good progress in ROCE, which increased to 12.2%. The key figures now in the consolidated income statement are: underlying EBIT increased by 12.5% to 272 million. EBIT reached 257 million euro and increased by 65.5%. The income taxes increased to 57 million, but the effective tax rate significantly declined from 73% last year to 33% in 2020. Last but not least, finally, the result for the period and the share attributed to the equity holders of Bekaert more than tripled compared to the last year. Key figures per share, driven by the stronger net result, the earnings per share also more than tripled, from 0.73 last year to 2.38 euro in 2020. The share price ended only slightly above the level of the year-end 2019 at the close of 2020. Let's talk about this balance sheet. The key performance indicators in our balance sheet include the strong working capital decline, the significant debt deleveraging, and the strong liquidity with 940 million euro cash on hand at the close of 2020. While the share price was only slightly above the year-end 2019 at the close of 2020, it has increased significantly since the full year 2020 results announcement on March 3rd of this year. The Bekaert share really outperforms the European small and mid indices. Now let's have a look on the topic of Bekaert's value creation agenda. Our ambition is to create sustainable value for all our stakeholders. This means for our customers, for our employees, the shareholders, and communities. This ambition is expressing our commitment to our stakeholders. Firstly, to our customers, we make our customers succeed for differentiated solutions and service offering, and by being a technology partner for innovative developments in product and service supplies. Our aim is to be our customers' partner of choice. Secondly, commitment to our employees. You know our baseline, better together, and this applies to all stakeholders. It is not just a slogan, it is reality. At Bekaert, we have an engaged and an experienced workforce and a culture of accountability, performance, and pride. This is a part of our DNA. With the same spirit, we work better together with our customers, suppliers, the communities where we are active, and all stakeholders. Thirdly, commitment to our shareholders. We commit to high performance. We deliver on priorities. We are raising our ambitions for the future. Last but not least, we care for the world around us. Also in this important field, we are raising our ambitions and shaping our strategy, both in terms of sustainable production processes and in offering sustainable solutions to the markets. Now let's have a look on the Q1 trading update. The market development in the first quarter of 21, and here let's start with the rubber markets, with the tire markets, a very strong demand. There were record sales for the business unit rubber reinforcement in the month of March. The demand picked up in other areas of the automotive markets as well, with a positive impact for Bekaert steel wire solution, fiber technologies, and advanced cores, for example, for the timing belts. When we look on a glance on construction infrastructure, the demand rebound in Latin America, supported by individual stimulus programs. It was also solid in the rest of the world, with positive impacts on Bekaert steel wire solutions and building product activities. Elevator market was strong, and of course, this meet a good demand for BBRG A-cords. Looking on energy and utilities, the market is also very strong. Positive demand evolutions for the flex pipe armoring and overhead power cable business of steel wire solutions, improved order books for the BBRG ropes business. Very robust the agriculture sector, the fishing, marine, horticulture, aquaculture markets. There's an accelerating trend toward local cultivation and shorter supply chains. Good sales volumes we also could see for the steel wire solutions. Now look at the figures of the Q1. The organic consolidated sales growth was up by 19% in the first quarter of 21, reaching 1.128 billion in consolidated revenue. This robust growth stems from higher volumes and a positive impact from passed on viral changes and other mix effects. Part of the growth was offset by adverse currency movements, -3%, so resulting in a top line increase of +16%. All business units reported higher sales. Rubber reinforcement and steel wire solutions rebounded to pre-COVID levels with robust organic growth compared to the first quarter of 2020. Also, specialty business and BBRG delivered positive growth. Including the strong sales growth of the joint ventures in Brazil, the combined organic sales growth was +22%, including the negative currency movements of -7%. Combined with revenue was up +16% to reach 1.339 billion for the quarter. Now the highlights of the first quarter. We recorded an all-time high revenues in this history of the company. And we captured the demand rebound worldwide when outperforming the Latin American markets, but also to a certain extent, the European ones. We maintained the working capital at low levels. Our liquidity went up from more than 60 million to now over 1 billion cash on hand. And we were further able to deleverage the net debt in the first quarter of this year. What are the focus and the priorities been in the first quarter? Of course, we maintained our focus on health and safety, but also on the well-being of our employees. We continue to ensure excellent service delivery to our customer worldwide. But we continue to implement improvement initiatives, for example, product and business mix optimization, keeping the pricing discipline aligned with the raw materials price evolutions. We continue effective control on costs and working capital and are further developing and deploying our sustainability, innovation, and digital initiatives. So what about the future potential? The strong performance we are delivering and our determination to stimulate value creation by further enhancing our business portfolio and sizing value growth in robust markets have made us more confident about the future potential of Bekaert. We will disclose our full year 21 outlook and midterm guidance during our Capital Markets Day on the 28th of May. Now, here closer, and with this, I hand back to the chairman.
Thank you, Oswald. And again, congratulations on the excellent results last year and the strong start this year. So it looks good for 2021. So thank you. As I said earlier, I would like to take this opportunity to inform you about our announcement this morning that the board has decided to support a proposal to introduce double voting rights and to change the composition of the board. So I would like to provide you with some background to this decision by the board. And it is such that the double voting rights was introduced in the new Belgian Code of Companies and Association, applicable from January 1st, 2020. It aims to reward the long-term perspective and loyalty among shareholders of listed companies. However, it has to be decided by the shareholders of the company, obviously, that they would like to introduce these voting rights, the loyalty shares, and it needs to be incorporated in the Articles of Association. It applies to all shares that have been recorded in the share register in the name of the same shareholder for an uninterrupted period of at least 2 years. That's the long-term perspective that is being rewarded. And on May 6th this year, so about a week ago, the principal shareholder, the Stichting Administratorkantoor of Bekaert, I will call it STAC, proposed the board to consider the introduction of the double voting rights. So the board actually has delivered on this since we received this proposal, and after careful considerations, we have reached an unanimous decision to support the introduction of the loyalty shares, the double voting rights, based on a series of important points. The first time being that the long-term shareholders of Bekaert, they have provided and will continue to provide great stability for us as we implement our transformation and we implement our strategies. It will apply to all Bekaert shares that have been recorded, as I mentioned before, in the share register in the name of the same shareholder for an uninterrupted period of at least 2 years. All Bekaert shareholders have the right to vote on the introduction of the double voting rights. So the board can recommend it and the board can propose it, but the shareholders decide, and all shareholders of Bekaert will have the right to vote on the introduction. And it will require a special majority of 2/3, and also that the extraordinary general meeting has a quorum of 50%. The agreement to introduce a balanced board composition was also reached, whereby the independent directors and the CEO should represent at least half of the members of the board. This is to give the board a stronger governance and a stronger independence. So provided that the double voting rights are approved by our shareholders, then at the annual general meeting next year, 2022, the board will propose to decrease the number of directors from 13 to 10 and not reappoint or replace 2 directors who were nominated by the STAC and whose terms will expire at the meeting in 2022. What are the next steps? First of all, you will of course receive more information, and you will also receive an invitation to the extraordinary general meeting of shareholders. That meeting is scheduled to take place on Thursday, the 15th of July, 2021. And there you will have the opportunity to vote on the proposal to introduce the double rights and amend the Articles of Association. If for some reason we don't reach a quorum at that meeting in July, we have reserved the date for a second meeting, a second extraordinary general meeting on Tuesday, the 21st of September 2021, with the same agenda. And it's only, let's say, a placeholder, a reserve date in case we do not get a quorum on the first meeting. And then at the annual general meeting of shareholders on the 11th of May 2022, provided that the double voting rights is approved by the extraordinary general meeting, we will then have our first general meeting with double voting rights. We will decrease the number of directors from 13 to 10, and we will not reappoint or replace 2 directors who were nominated by the STAC. So I hope as a background that explains a little bit this proposal, and it explains a little bit the next steps. And as I said, there will be much more information provided to you, and there you will also receive the invitation to this extraordinary general meeting on July 15th. So with that, I will now give the floor to Charles de Liedekerk for the official part of the annual general meeting and of shareholders and the voting results. So please, Charles, it's yours.
Thank you, Chairman. I will now switch to Netherlands as it is the official language part of our meeting. Mevrouwen, mijn heren.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are now going to deliberate the annual general meeting. First of all, we're going to compose the bureau. The bureau of the general meeting is composed of the directors who are physically present at the meeting. I'm the only director who attends physically. The other ones are attending virtually. Ladies, mevrouw Charlotte van Robays, Mrs. Charlotte van Robays, who represents Deloitte's auditors, is attending virtually. Now we are proceeding to the nomination of the secretary of our meeting. I give this position to Isabelle van der Veke, General Secretary. Mrs. Michelle van Hoven and Mrs. van der Vekes are now appointed as tellers. Given the measures which were imposed by the government because of the COVID crisis, the Board of Directors has decided to offer the possibility to attend virtually at this annual general meeting in accordance with Article 7137 of the Code of Companies and in accordance with the Articles of Associations and with the Code, the convenience notice to this AGM was published together with the agenda in the Belgian State Gazette on the 9th of April 2021. In the date on the 9th of April 221, and in the press and in the digital press in the Eurozone on the 9th of April 2021. So I would like to ask the tellers to initial these pieces of evidence. The shareholders, the holders of subscriptions rights, and the Board of Directors and the auditor were invited in writing to this general meeting. The convening of this general meeting and all information necessary was also published on the website of Bekaert since 9 April 2021. The shareholders, holders of subscription rights, holders of debentures and holders of convertible debentures had the right to submit written questions to the Board of Directors and the statutory auditor by notifying such questions to the company no later than 6 May, but none of them made use of this possibility. Shareholders, holders of subscription rights, holders of debentures, and holders of convertible debentures who are attending the meeting virtually may ask questions during the meeting through the Lumi AGM platform. All questions should relate to the annual report of the Board of Directors, the statutory auditor's report, the remuneration report, the remuneration policy, or the other items on the agenda. The questions will be answered during the formal deliberation of the first 5 agenda items. Ladies and gentlemen, from the attendance rosters, we found that the represented shareholders represent 35,826,522 shares out of a total of 60,414,841 shares issued by the company. There are no holders of subscription rights, no holders of debentures, no holders of convertible debentures present. Each share carries 1 vote. I note that the meeting is validly constituted and is able to deliberate and resolve on the various items on the agenda. From now on, shareholders attending the meeting who have not given a proxy can vote online on the various agenda items until when the last agenda item will have been dealt with. The voting results will be announced at the end of the general meeting. Before moving on to the agenda, I would like to point out that for most agenda items, we have been informed of a number of votes against or abstentions, mainly due to institutional investors. The reason for this voting behavior is generally to be found in the rules to which these investors are subject. Ladies and gentlemen, the agenda has as its first 5 points. Point 1, annual report of the Board of Directors, including comments on the remuneration report. 2, report of the statutory auditor. 3, approval of the remuneration report. 4, approval of the remuneration policy. 5, the approval of the annual accounts. The consolidated annual report and the consolidated annual accounts, including the annual report and annual accounts of NV Bekaert SA in condensed form, and the remuneration report were sent to the holders of registered shares on 9 April 2021 and have also been published on the Bekaert website since 26 March 2021. The full annual report, annual accounts and report of the statutory auditor of NV Bekaert SA and the remuneration policy have been published on the Bekaert website since 9 April 2021. I am therefore assuming that the meeting waives the reading of these documents. On 3 May 2021, the Works Councils of the sites of NV Bekaert SA were jointly informed of the position and development of the company during the past financial year. They were also informed of the company's objectives and strategy. In accordance with the law, the general meeting is notified of the report of that meeting, and I request the company secretary to read the report. At a common gathering of the EWC in Ingelmünster and Zwevegem on the 3rd of May of 2021, there was a special session to look at the annual accounts and to release them. Comments were made on the activities of the auditor, of the statutory auditor. Subsequently, we talked about the international environment in which Bekaert works and also about its target markets. Information was given about the implementation of the Bekaert strategy and the activities that are undertaken to the better, and also about the price of the Bekaert share. There was also information about the annual account of 2021 of Bekaert Group, Bekaert SA, the Coordination Center, and Scheldestroom NV. Because of the corona crisis, people decided to have the Q&A session deferred to a later date. Thank you, Mrs. van der Veken. Ladies and gentlemen, we now proceed to deliberate on the annual report of the Board of Directors, the report of the statutory auditor, the remuneration report, the remuneration policy, and the annual accounts of Bekaert NV-SA. There will now be a short break, a pause to verify if during the meeting online questions were asked.
Do horizons hold infinite possibilities when you're alone? What are answers if they're not a shared solution? What is a challenge if it isn't being met? A goal if it's only your own? What worth is that story inside of you if it's never heard? The future has all of us in mind, searching, learning, stepping up, being heard. Transform your ambitions, engage and inspire. At Bekaert, we believe we're better together. It's why we want to meet you.
Mevrouw Bohe.
Mrs. Bohe, were there any questions submitted via the Lumi IHA Plus platform? Yes, we received two questions. First one by Dominique Carlier. I will read the question in French. How many shares are there and how will they be?
Oswald, I will translate the question in English. A question raised by shareholder Mr. Dominique Carlier. How many treasury shares do we have now in portfolio, and what is the intended usage of the treasury shares? I can already confirm that there are today 3,482,114 treasury shares, representing 5.76% of the total number of shares.
I'll be happy to respond. You know, these shares are actually reserved for our incentive programs. So each of our stock-based incentive programs are backed up by the treasury shares. So it's a very conservative approach that we basically have covered all our, let's say, liabilities or promises made on our share programs through the treasury shares. So that's why we have these treasury shares, and Mrs. Lewis explained that there are 3,400,000 some thousand of them.
Een tweede vraag werd gesteld.
A second question by Mr. Christoph van Houten. What are the targets linked to the remuneration to the management?
Is about the remuneration report and the remuneration policy, which is on the agenda. And the question is, what are the targets related to the remuneration of the management?
I can answer it. We have two types of remuneration: a short-term incentive and a long-term incentive. So the short-term incentive is each member of the executive management of Bekaert has very clear measurable objectives on the short-term incentives. That is for the year. And each of them have a clear target. There's a clear range of the payouts against that target, and it's evaluated at the end of the year. On the long-term incentive, basically that program runs for 3 years, and it is for the leadership team of the company. And there, right now, there are two variables. One is the operating cash flow that's generated over a 3-year period, and the other one is the EBITDA achieved. So those two drive then the long-term incentive, those two indicators.
Dit waren de vragen.
So these were the questions that have entered. So the deliberation is now concluded, and I propose to go over all items on the agenda. The voting results will be, you will be informed of them later. So number 1, the annual report of 2020. There is no decision to be made with the exception of the remuneration report. The policy of remuneration is explained in the report over the book year, over the financial year 2020, and is related to the procedure which was used in 2020 to develop and determine the remuneration of the board of directors and the executive committee. The policy, which is to be approved under the agenda, point will, after approval, take effect on the 1st of January. And then number 2, the report of the statutory auditor on the financial 2020. There is no decision to be made. Then point 3, approval of the remuneration report. And I ask the general meeting for her approval of the remuneration report over financial year 2020. Agenda item number 4, approval is asked of the general agreement of the remuneration policy of the non-executive directors and management. And agenda item number 5, approval of the annual accounts. I request the general meeting to approve the proposal of annual accounts over the financial years 2020, composed of the balance sheet, the profit and loss statement and the general result. The loss over 2020 is 86,889,620 euro, compared to a profit of 61,326,822 euros in 2019. So we propose to the general meeting to designate a result as such. Withdrawal from the reserves, 143,683,803 euros. The profit to be paid as dividend, 56,759,183 euros. The gross dividend is €1 per share. And if you approve this proposal, then the net dividend will be payable as from 18 May 2021. Then agenda point number 6, I propose to the agenda to give the granting for the execution in 2020 and to give them discharge for that, and also to the auditor in the same year. And then agenda point 7, the mandate of the independent directors Henriette Wenger-Ellekroch and Mrs. Erika Söderström is now expiring today. The Board of Directors propose that Mrs. Elien Wenger-Ellekroch is reappointed as independent director in the sense of Article 787 of the Code of Companies and of Article 3.5 of the Corporate Governance Code 2020 for a period of 4 years up to and including the general meeting of 2025 from both the companies, the data and the data known, and by the information given by Mrs. Ellekroch, it appears that she meets the conditions and regulations. The Board of Directors proposes to reappoint Mrs. Erika Söderström as independent director in the sense of Article 787 of the Company Code and of the Article 3.5 of the Governance Code 2020 for a period of until 2025, up to and including the general meeting. From the data known from the company and from what was informed by Mrs. Söderström herself, it appears that she meets the requirements for independence. As prescribed by law, the proposals for reappointment were submitted to the EWC of NV Bekaert. The CVs and all relevant information relating to professional qualifications of candidates and the positions which are taken care of by these candidates are published on the website of the company. Then agenda point number 8. If agenda point 1 of the European Resolution 735/2014 stipulates that from the 17th of June 2020, organizations of public importance cannot do any verification or grant any verification activities if this activity has lasted 20 years of or longer. At the date this resolution has come into effect. Deloitte's company auditors was during 20 consecutive years the auditor of the company and therefore is subject to this article. And therefore, Deloitte, the company auditors, is now resigning as the auditor of the company. The WC of Bekaert SA have approved the appointment unanimously of EY company auditors represented by Marnix van Doren and Francis Boelens. The extracts of the minutes of those two WCs can be looked at or can be consulted at the Bureau. The Board of Directors, which acts as appointed by the WC, proposes to have EY bedrijfsrevisoren represented by Marnix van Doren and Mr. Francis Boelens to appoint them as auditors for a period of 3 years up to and including the general meeting of 2025. The auditor shall take care of the verification of the annual accounts and the consolidated annual accounts. Then agenda point number 9. The Board of Directors proposes to have the remuneration of the mandates of 2021 to determine them 70,000 euros. So each director has the option to have part of this 0%, 25%, or 50% to receive them as a company share after calculating taxes and clearing taxes. So the Board of Directors proposes to give as a remuneration of non-executive directors for their mandates as a member of the Executive Committee of the financial year 2021 to propose 20,000 euros and to pay additional fixed amount of 5,000 euros to the chairperson of the Audit, Risk and Finance Committee. The Board of Directors proposes to determine the remuneration of the chairman of the Board of Directors for the performance of all his duties in the company during the period June 21 to 23 as follows. A fixed amount of 650,000 euros per year for the period June up to and including May, converted into a number of company shares that will be calculated by applying an average share price. This conversion will happen before or after the deduction of the applicable taxes. The average price to be applied will be equal to the average of the closing price of the last 5 trading days preceding the grant date. The company shares will be granted on the last trading day of May of the relevant year and will be blocked for a period of 3 years from the grant date. With the exception of support items such as infrastructure, telecommunication, insurance, and reimbursement of expenses, the chairman will not be entitled to any additional remuneration. The Board of Directors proposes that the Chief Executive Officer will not receive remuneration for his mandate as director without prejudice to the remuneration in his capacity as executive manager. Agenda item number 10. The Board of Directors proposes to the General Meeting that the remuneration of EY Bedrijfsrevisoren as statutory auditor for financial years 2021 up to and including 2023 to be set at 88,000 euros per year for the audit of the annual accounts and at 236,000 euros per year for the audit of the consolidated annual accounts, subject to modification with the approval of the General Meeting and of the statutory auditor. All amounts are exclusive of VAT. Then agenda item 11. The Board of Directors requests the General Meeting to approve the change of control provisions applying to the company contained in the following document in accordance with Article 7151 of the Code of Companies and Associations. The modification proposal is included in the following document, the prospectus dated 6 October 2020 regarding the public offering in Belgium by the company of 2.75% fixed rate bonds maturing on 23 October 2027 for a maximum aggregate nominal amount of 200 million euros. The content of the change of control provisions was described in the explanatory note that was part of the agenda published together with the notice convening this General Meeting. Agenda point number 12. In accordance with the Code of Companies and Associations, the Board of Directors has prepared and communicated to the General Meeting the consolidated annual accounts for the financial year 2020 of the Bekaert Group. These consolidated annual accounts include the balance sheet, the income statement, and the related notes. The financial year 2020 was closed with a group profit of 135 million euros compared to a group profit of 41 million euros in 2019. These elements are fully reported in the annual report. This communication does not call for a resolution. Having said this, all agenda items have been covered, and we will immediately announce the voting results.
Mevrouw van der
Mrs. van der Veke, I request you make the voting results public. Agenda point 3, item 3, the general meeting approves the remuneration report for 25,158,593 votes in favor. There are 10,666,000 votes against and 1,093 abstentions. Agenda item 4. The general meeting approves the remuneration policy with 26,692,952 votes in favor, 9,132,477 votes against, and 1,093 abstentions. Agenda item 5. The general meeting approves the annual accounts for the financial year 2020, including the proposal for the appropriation of the result, with 35,752,903 votes in favor. There are 20,000 votes against and 53,219 abstentions. Agenda item 6.1. The general meeting grants discharge to the directors for the performance of their duties during the financial year 2020 with 34,833,428 votes in favor. There are 932,695 votes against and 60,399 abstentions. Then 6.2, the general meeting grants discharge to the statutory auditor for the performance of its duties during the financial year 2020 with 35,684,139 votes in favor, 81,934 against, and 60,399 abstentions. Agenda item 7.1, the general meeting resolved to reappoint Mrs. Henriette Wenger-Elkroch as independent director for a period of 4 years, up to and including the annual general meeting to be held in 2025, with 34,509,843 votes in favor, 940,274 votes against, and 376,405 abstentions. Agenda item 7.2. The general meeting resolves to reappoint Mrs. Erika Söderström as independent director for a period of 4 years, up to and including the annual general meeting to be held in 2025, with 33,172,154 votes in favor. There are 2,277,963 votes against and 376,405 abstentions. Agenda item 8. The general meeting resolves to appoint EY bedrijfsrevisoren represented by Marnix van Doren and Francis Boeles as statutory auditors for a term of 3 years, up to and including the annual general meeting of 2024, with 35,733,995 votes in favor, 91,434 against, and 1,093 abstentions. Agenda item 9.1. The general meeting approves the proposal on the remuneration of the non-executive directors as members of the board of directors with 35,500,000 554, 116 votes in favor, 271,313 against, and 1,093 abstentions. 9.2. The General Meeting approves the proposal on the remuneration of the non-executive directors as member of chairperson of a committee of the board, with 35,778,239 votes in favor, 47,190 against, and 1,093 abstentions. Agenda item 9.3. The General Meeting approves the proposal regarding the remuneration of the Chairman of the Board of Directors, with 24,167,361 votes in favor, 11,658,068 votes against, and 1,093 abstentions. Item 9.4. The General Meeting approves the proposal on the remuneration of the Chief Executive Officer for his assignment as Director, with 35,825,429 votes in favor, nobody voted against, and there are 1,093 abstentions. The General Meeting approves item 10 for the statutory auditor, with 35,322,883 votes in favor, 502,536 against, and 1,093 abstention. Then item 11, the General Meeting approves a change of control provisions in the perspectives of 6 October 2020, with 35,654,170 votes in favor, 171,259 against, and again 1,093 abstentions. Thank you, Mrs. van der Veken. Ladies and gentlemen, so we've come to the end of this meeting. The annual general meeting of shareholders of NV Bekaert S.A. is now officially closed. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for participating in our virtual general meeting. I wish you a very nice day.